Thank you for tuning in. This is Ron Tang, and you're listening to Life in General. What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in. Today is July 2nd. This is officially my first episode of Life in General. So I had this crazy idea of starting my own podcast. I don't know what came over me. This isn't something I thought I'd be doing, but here I am. So for the past couple years, I've been listening to podcasts pretty steady. It actually all started with the Monday morning podcast with Bill Burr. And then when I had the SoundCloud app, I started to look into other podcasters. There's many interesting podcasters out there, but the main ones, the main five that I listen to right now, if you were to go into my podcast player, would be Under the Skin with Russell Brand. Let's see, Jordan Peterson's podcast. There's this one I found on YouTube called Side Note. Harmontown with Dan Harmon and Bill Burr's Monday Morning Podcast. So I've been pretty heavy on the podcast for about 3 years now. So so I'm gonna try to make it work. Maybe about once a week or ever so often. I'm not sure right now, but it will be about life in general. Brought to you by me. I'm gonna try to do an episode bi-weekly because I still have a lot of things to figure out, like equipment and what microphone I'm gonna use. Because right now I'm just recording with like a mini USB microphone on the laptop. I actually just learned about this thing called Audacity and Ocean City, is it? So these are the two free recording and editing apps, the two softwares that I will be using. I'd like to see where it goes. Pretty exciting stuff. So before I invite any guests on here, because I will be inviting people to come on here to talk with me about certain topics, because I know a few people. All right. I know some people. So I'd like to handle this life in general thing. It pertains to my life specifically. But however, I'm not one of those know-it-alls, and I do not claim to know everything. But I will be talking about a variety of topics in which I'll have different guests. So some of the topics I'll talk about and things I'm interested in, actually, a lot of it will be on, fitness. I have a lot of fitness friends. There's going to be some real estate talks. There will be people that are into filmmaking, bodybuilding. Although I hate fad diets, me and my friends that are doing the ketogenic diet, as of recent, we'll be talking a little bit about that. There's so many topics I want to cover, in future episodes. Everything from synchronicity to psychedelics to spirituality to current events, a little bit of politics. Although I'm not a fan of talking about too much politics. One thing I'll let you guys know is this is not a safe space. Anything goes. I do welcome fact checkers because I know there's a lot of those out there nowadays. Everyone's a fact checker. You can just see under the YouTube comments or just under the comments of any meme you'll see on Facebook. So I do welcome fact checkers because half the time I don't even know what the fuck I'm talking about. I also do a bit of writing. You can find some of my writing on the medium.com, medium.com/Ron Tang. As some of my friends already know and has read some of my stuff. So this podcast isn't exactly progressive or part of PC culture. Of course, there will be facts, but just not as much as my opinions and ignorance, because I graduated at the Institute of Wikipedia. I won't tell you everything that I do now, but you'll get to know me better as I get better at doing podcasts, talking about different topics. Or I could just tell you that I have a PhD in physics, that I'm a humanitarian and a philanthropist, professional squash player, and sponsored by Under Armour. No, not really, but you'll get to know me when I do better at this podcast. I'm still trying to figure out all the ins and outs. So, also, one thing I've noticed with podcasters in Podcasters Paradise is that they have anything from one to multiple guests on usually, and it takes away the beats of silence. For me, I'm gonna try to do it solo for the most part. But there's so many people that I want to bring on. Like, I can just think of 4 to 5 right now on top of my head, like the 4 friends that I specifically want to talk to on this podcast. But yeah, for the most part, I'm going to try to do it myself, and I'm just going to say, fuck it. I'm just going to let the awkward silence ride out. And I think it's going to be great, I want to talk about existential crisis, more on current events. It's just going to be improvised, my own little thing. Of course, life in general, it's going to immortalize me. It's going to be great, but I don't mind the awkward silence. I think awkward silence is great. It's like that Tinder date that you match with because you just swipe right for everyone a little too fast because you just wanted to get laid, and now you're sitting in Starbucks with your least compatible match. But you just kind of hope that it works out, right? That the silence is more golden than awkward. My first one, I'm going to try to keep it under an hour. I'm going to try to keep it under half an hour. We will get down to the nitty gritty, but I want to try to see if I can space it out to 20 to 25 minutes with the intro and the outro music. This is just me trying to be humble. I mean, I never really understood guys that try to do a podcast and they'll go for like an hour and a half of their first podcast as if people are going to listen to an hour and a fucking half of their podcast. But yeah, so I'm going to try to space it out. 25 minutes should be enough, because some of the ones I've listened to, as soon as they hit about 30 to 35 minutes, they start doing like, the sponsorships, advertisements. Of course, I'm not there yet. They do Q&As. A lot of it really is just interviews, I've noticed. But yeah, so I think I just killed about a good 10 minutes so far. So I think we're doing pretty good. So I will be doing some editing and cutting, because fuck it, I don't want to sound too stupid for my first time, but I think it'll all come together, and by the time I'm finished, you guys would barely notice, hopefully. But even if that does happen, I hope you will forgive me. In the future, I will not need to edit. I'm just gonna improvise the whole way through with the right equipment. While talking shit, I can Google stuff and have more of a discussion styled like podcast with you guys. So I'm just sitting here now. The World Cup is just about to finish. Today is Canada Day. My dog is scared shitless. He's just hiding in the corner right now, shaking. This is the only time he probably doesn't want to eat anything. He's completely lost his appetite. I don't know if it happens with your dogs, but I do know it's quite a common thing. I actually did not know this before I had Simba. His name is Simba. But I think it's gotten progressively worse with him through the years. They don't really give you much info on how to handle things like this, because every time there's a long weekend or some sort of Canada Day, Victoria Day, whatever day that people need to light up fucking fireworks outside till midnight. My dog just gets really scared. He starts shaking. He's hiding in closets under the table. The vet has told me to stuff things in his ears, try to put on loud music, but none of it works. Like, he literally looks paranoid. Like, his eyes just look a lot bigger. He's breathing through his mouth. It's I know it's not an exciting way, but usually when they get overexcited, that's how they breathe. But this is not an excitement, right? It's a scared shitless. So I don't know how to handle it. If you guys know, do tell me, because it's getting ridiculous. Because now I find that it lasts a little longer with him. It never used to be this bad. Like, he'll be over it in about a day or two, but I don't know. He just starts acting weird. Usually within the next day, like, he's fine. He kind of forgets about it. But as he got older, he's 6 years old now. What's that in dog years? That's like, what, 40, 42? Now he has the aftermath is like, him still hiding when I see him in the mornings. He doesn't want to eat. He still pees on the carpet, but this is usually a couple days after fireworks. So I don't know. It's been like that for the past year and a half. So if you guys have an answer, please do drop me a line. Yeah. So I just, yeah, there's no need for fireworks. Fuck. You spend like what, $100. Boom, boom. It's all. But yeah, hopefully he'll be okay by Friday. When France beats Uruguay. Speaking of which, aren't your Italian friends really quiet this year? I mean, they are usually the loudest, most rowdiest bunch during the World Cup. I mean, my Italian friends, like, during the World Cup, like, they turn into Joe Pesci from Goodfellas, right? I don't even think they've updated their statuses this year. I mean, drive through Vaughan or Woodbridge. For the future outside listeners, that's where most of the Italians reside, just outside of the GTA. If you drive through Woodbridge this time around, I think it's just bear crickets. Haven't heard a word from them. Haven't spoke to too many of them this time around. I think they're just, I don't know what they're doing. They're just sitting at home. You know what's interesting is that this is something that literally nobody has mentioned or talked about, and it's something that I've noticed with the World Cup, especially people cheering for whatever teams they're rooting for. So I have two Haitian buddies. They are both Canadian born, but they do speak French because their parents or the grandparents were from Haiti. I noticed that they were both cheering for Team France. And a few of my Filipino friends, they're going for Spain, okay? And even as a kid, I've noticed, like, when David Beckham goes to Hong Kong, I mean, the Hong Kongers, which is my family's background, the Chinese over there, like, they love David Beckham. Like, they go crazy whenever he visits. And Hong Kong was ruled under British colony for 150 years, right? That's when they opened the port. They were importing, like, opium and tea and all that stuff. I don't know what they were doing, but I knew there was a port open, and it belonged to the Queen for 150 years. And our flag used to be the old British flag. Is it the old one? I don't know. It's the red and blue one. So, straight to the point, Hong Kongers cheer for England. Always. That's the thing I've noticed. it's sort of like cheering for your colonizers, right? I mean, because those are the countries that have colonized the Asian countries, and especially with the Haiti speaking French and all. What the Spaniards did to the Philippines, isn't that like cheering for your, it's Stockholm in a way, isn't it? It's like a mild form of Stockholm syndrome. I don't know, but it's funny. It's interesting, really, how we cheer on our colonizers. It's kind of like, somebody invaded you, came into your house, held you captive for a certain amount of time. You guys sort of got to know each other. All of a sudden somebody else comes along, tries to shake down the guy that captured you, and you're just like, oh my God, are you okay? Like, that's sort of how I feel, right? That's sort of how it goes down. Yeah, it's a weird concept. I mean, like, it's such a mild form of Stockholm syndrome in a way. That's the way that I see it. Portugal is outed by Uruguay, so I guess they're gonna start cheering for Brazil now, because that's what the Portuguese do when their team is out, because their languages are so close. Whatever. Yeah, I'm actually just waiting for the Uruguay versus France on Friday. Speaking of France, I recently booked my trip to Europe in September. I figured, why not? I'm 30 this year. I really want to visit Europe. I've done South America, a lot of Asia. I've been to Australia, so I figured, why not? This year I'm gonna go over to Europe. I do have an auntie that lives over there in the UK. She lives in London, along with my two cousins, whom I've never met before. So I guess it'll be pretty exciting. I do have my cousins on Facebook. Like, I have a lot of family members on Facebook that I've never met before. So it'll be pretty neat meeting them for the first time. I vaguely remember my aunt, whom I've met on maybe 2 occasions when I was a kid, maybe 6 or 7. This was when we lived in Scarborough, Ontario. From there, I'll spend a week and take the Eurostar train over to Paris. I found out that you can take that train for 33 euros. I got relatives over in Paris, so I'll just be bunking with them for a while. So accommodations provided for. So I'm really just worrying about food and transportation, which shouldn't be a problem. Although I heard it's like crazy expensive once you get over to Paris. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. I booked it. Oh, get this. I booked the whole thing for 328 using Google Flights. Now, I just learned about this system, and not many people know. Well, more and more people are aware of Google Flights now. But my friend showed me this, how to just book cheaper flights, because what usually happens is that travel agencies, they'll buy everything in bulk and then just sell it off for a discounted price. But Google Flights will just find you the lowest discounted price pretty much right away. It gives you all the months in advance. You just pick the return date, and it'll give you the prices for all the flights throughout the year. It's insane. It's incredibly cheap. I booked it for 328. I'll be flying with Iceland Air. So 328, but I realized that these small companies, where they actually get you is the luggage. So bringing my luggage over there, pretty much the layover in Iceland, and then coming back, they charged me $248. So I'm allowed 1 carry-on and 1 luggage. $248 is ridiculous, but when it adds up, it's about $640 something. So it's still a bit cheaper than what you would usually get for a round trip to Europe. So That's pretty cool. That whole Google flight system. It'll be my first time going to Iceland as well. That it's funny because as soon as I book my trip, what I usually do is I'll research on the places I'm going to, but I find myself more excited about my layover in Iceland, because going over there for the first flight will be a 9-hour layover, and coming back I'll have a whole day in Iceland. So I started researching everything on this country, like the places you can go to, like the day tours will take you to this place where it literally looks like you're on the moon. Apparently that's where the astronauts train, because it's so much similar to the moon. I don't know if that's true. Just one of those things that I've read on the internet. There's the Aurora Borealis, of course. That's one of those bucket list things that I've wanted to see for a while. And then there's the infamous Blue Lagoon Spa with the heated water, algae mask, bathrobe, luxury space, champagne, all that. Like I'm just looking forward to the whole Iceland experience. Yeah, it's fucking smart what they did. Like, just have a bunch of people like have their long layovers in Iceland, and they fall in love with the country, and you go back. It's like everything's stupid expensive over there. When I was looking at the Blue Lagoon online, like just the admission is like 85. Their meals, something that looked like a filet mignon, was like 55. It was just like a small piece of like ribeye with asparagus. It's stupid. It's stupid. So how are we doing for time right now? Well, look at that, guys. We made it. If you're still listening to this at this point, thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm going to have another one up in the next 2 weeks. So you guys can tune in again to see what's going on. And I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks.